India and China remain locked in a bitter border standoff. 60,000 troops from each side are deployed in forward locations along the border, where even a small spark could ignite a larger conflict. Now the Indian Air Force has shown that it is ready to burst the Chinese bubble. It has now emerged how an IAF Rafale fighter jet shot down a super high altitude target in the shape of a Chinese spy balloon at over 55,000 feet. Times of India quoted the defense source saying, quote, Rafale's demonstration was at an altitude of over 55,000 feet, way over what had been practiced earlier. The target balloon with a payload was relatively smaller than the Chinese one that violated US airspace, unquote. The Indian secret test was almost a reenactment of the US Air Force's F-22 stealth jet shooting down an actual Chinese spy balloon off the coast of South Carolina last year in 2023. The US Air Force had tracked the Chinese surveillance balloon all across North America, and it created quite a stir and global media frenzy back then.
Following new warnings from Washington to Beijing about the Chinese spy balloon now flying over the United States.
China has condemned the US's military's decision to shoot down a suspected Chinese...
When the balloon was at 65,000 feet, the F-22 learned on that when it fired the missile.
Finally, the US F-22 shot down the Chinese vessel over the sea to minimize any collateral damage. The direct hit was at over 60,000 feet, was also a demonstration of the capabilities of the F-22 Raptor, as well as an indication of American intent to eliminate any Chinese military targets on its soil. Back then, the US openly accused China of using such high-altitude surveillance balloons to spy on US military assets. The US government had claimed, quote, this was a PRC surveillance balloon. This surveillance balloon purposely traversed the United States and Canada, and we are confident it was seeking to monitor sensitive military sites, unquote. Now, China huffed and puffed, but actually did not retaliate to what went down in history as the first kill by the F-22 Raptor. Now, a year earlier, in 2022, a similar high-altitude balloon was tracked over the Indian Andaman and Nicobar Islands, but India chose not to shoot it down and allowed it to drift away in a couple of days. However, the Indian Air Force has been making contingency plans for any such eventuality ever since. A source told Times of India, quote, the IAF formulated TTPs, tactics, techniques and procedures to handle such contingencies. It has been practicing the capacity to interject in such situations at different flight envelopes, unquote. Few details of the Indian Air Force test have been revealed. Firstly, IAF Rafale fighter jet of the 101 Falcon Squadron based at the Hashimara Air Base in West Bengal was used for this highly secret test. It's not confirmed, but we can assume that the test would have also been carried out by the Eastern Air Command over the Bay of Bengal or a body of water to avoid casualties. This test happened a few months ago. The kill shot by the Rafale was at over 55,000 feet, a first for the Indian Air Force at such high altitude. It's also been revealed that the 4.5 generation Rafale jet used its on-board missiles and not any special munition. We know that the Indian Rafales are armed with Meteor missiles with maximum range of 120 to 150 kilometers, as well as the Mica missiles with a range of 70 kilometers. The target, which was released in the air, was smaller than the Chinese balloon, which also showcases the accuracy of the kill shot. So why is the test strategically important? Now, firstly, it shows the capabilities of the Indian Air Force and the Indian Rafale jet. Secondly, it's important for India to have the capabilities to neutralize any Chinese surveillance operations. In modern warfare, surveillance and intelligence plays a key role. A recent example was seen in 2022 near Tawang in Arunachal Pradesh. Chinese PLA attempted to salami slice the border, but Indian Army had prior intelligence thanks to the United States. Visuals were seen of Indian troops beating the PLA personnel with sticks and pushing them back across the border in what turned out to be an embarrassment for the Chinese military. China could use such high-altitude balloons with minimal radar cross-section to spy on Indian positions, but the test is also a clear warning by the Indian Air Force against any such misadventures. As it is, the Indian Navy has been tracking increased Chinese naval activities in the Indian Ocean region in the shape of dual-purpose surveillance vessels. The PLA uses these ships to map the seabed for submarine operations as well as track Indian missile tests over the Bay of Bengal. Meanwhile, India too has been boosting its own surveillance abilities with the help of indigenous drones and satellites. However, a real breakthrough could be the HAPS program, or the High Altitude Pseudo Satellites. According to reports, the Indian Air Force is in the process of developing these solar-powered unmanned platforms capable of non-stop continuous flight of 30 to 45 days at an altitude of 18,000 meters or 60,000 feet. These HAPS would be low-cost, high-altitude endurance platforms, and they could be a game-changer for Indian defense technology and for prolonged monitoring of enemy movements along the line of actual control with China or the LOC with Pakistan. Now, the successful test by the Rafale jet is also a testament of the capabilities of the Indian Air Force. Let's hope the government finalizes the 114 MRFA program soon, while the Tejas Mk2 and AMCA stealth fighter jet programs must also meet their production timelines. If you found this news report informative, then leave a comment, hit the like button and subscribe to Inconnect News.